same thing, tied up in an event. He's going to come by in just a little bit as well. They both are scheduled to be here, but nobody's scheduled to have to deal with the events that they're having to deal with right now. So they will be here, and we will let them bring us up to date as soon as they can. So I hope you'll understand that all we can do. At this time, though, I'd like to introduce Bethany Kraft. Bethany is the Executive Director of the Alabama Coastal Foundation. And Bethany, you want to come up and bring us up to date on the foundation as well as the events.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Good.
Y'all have a good breakfast? Y'all hear me all right? Yes, I have to eat the microphone. So. My name is Bethany Kraft. I'm the director of the Alabama Coastal Foundation, and Talty and Carrie invited me here this morning just to give you a quick update on what activities are going on along the Gulf Coast to prepare for this oil release. It's obviously an unprecedented event, and I apologize that you're stuck with me instead of the mayors this morning, but I will do my best to keep y'all up to date and let you know what we're doing. The Alabama Coastal Foundation is a nonprofit organization that works throughout South Alabama. We're primarily an environmental education and habitat restoration organization, but over the last couple of weeks we have been forced to become oil release experts. In the past week, the Alabama Coastal Foundation, the National Estuary Program, and Mobile Baykeeper have joined forces, and we've been receiving people's contact information from literally all over the world. Folks that want to come down to the Gulf Coast and help clean up or respond in whatever way necessary to this oil release. In the last 7 days alone, we've collected over 10,000 names of volunteers who are ready and willing to help. So I think that we're all in good hands if the volunteers have anything to do with it. I wanted to just let you know a little bit about what your local resource managers down here and across the coast have been doing to prepare for this event. And then also let you know a little bit about what type of training is going to be available for volunteers in the coming weeks. I hope that you can pass that information along to your Condo Association, and then give you just a couple of resources that you can check often for updates. Let's start with pre-beach activities. Starting on Monday and continuing until oil begins to reach the shore, our three organizations, along with the State Lands Division and PALS, which is People Against the Litter State, have been conducting pre-event beach cleanups from, Monday and Tuesday we did Dolphin Island, Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, Fort Morgan, going across the beaches and just picking up any type of debris. And the reason that we're doing that is because you can move a piece of driftwood when it's just a piece of driftwood. It's no problem. You can pick it up, drag it to the high tide line, pick up any litter, some sand buckets the kids left behind, whatever. Once the oil reaches the shore, if that material is coated with oil, it then becomes a hazardous material and requires special training to deal with. And so we've been encouraging people to get out there, coordinate with our organizations, and get those beaches clean to make cleanup easier. What is cleanup going to look like? That's the $25,000 question that people have been calling our office and looking for, and I'm sure that y'all are interested in that as well. And from what I understand, it just really depends on where and how the oil reaches the shore. This is an event, and the way that things are unfolding is something that no one's ever really seen before. And so scientists are trying to figure out what the oil is going to look like, if it's going to be, really tarry and sticky, or if it's going to have, toxic effects. And those are all kind of items that are still up in the air. What we do know is that if you're going to be a part of the response effort, you're going to need some training. And lastly, what I wanted to mention, since we are on the beach, is that a response effort on the beach is going to look a lot different than a response effort in an estuary, for instance. So you've probably been hearing a lot about booming and where they're going to boom and how they're going to boom, and are they going to boom the beaches, are they going to boom the estuaries? And the good thing for all the folks right on the coast is that a beach is the easiest type of land to clean up after an oil spill. An estuary with oil in is going to be a lot more difficult to respond to. So feel good about the fact that the beach can just be swept clean, all the material hauled off to a landfill, and then you can start from there. Not to say that it's going to be easy. We saw on the paper yesterday and have been in contact with the governor's office about volunteer training. Looks like there's going to be 4 different levels of training for folks, depending on whether or not they're a contractor, they're a scientist, or whether they're just all of these folks are going to have to go through safety training. If you're interested in training or finding out more, you can go to, you can look at the governor's office on faith-based initiatives, but you can also call to register training. I'm going to give you a phone number here, 1-866-647-2338, extension 200. They're going to be offering training every day throughout the Gulf Coast for the next couple of weeks, as I understand. So if you can't get in today, you can get in tomorrow or next week. Another question, just really quickly, that people have been asking us a lot and calling in our office is, what can I do now? What can I do now? Everybody is, we're all on edge and we're all waiting to see what's going to happen. And I would suggest that A, you keep tabs on what's going on, encourage your local officials to participate in incident command. That is the command structure that's making decisions in regards to this oil release. They're going to drive volunteer cleanup efforts, and they're also going to drive any other response efforts on the part of the state or the federal government. And then lastly, don't go out and try to clean up or respond yourself without proper training. We don't want anybody to be unsafe. So go through those proper channels. Lastly, I will leave you all with a couple of websites that you can check back often for more information and kind of keep up to date with what's going on. And I would encourage you to disseminate those websites far and wide. Right now what we're seeing is there's not a lot of information out there, and so that vacuum is being filled with information that might not be completely accurate. And when there's a lot of rumors flying around, that's when people end up doing what's not safe, and we end up starting to panic about what we think is going to happen when it really might not. And I guess all of you know better than anybody else. We don't want to scare people away from our shores. So having the right information is a very powerful tool. You can always check the Alabama Coastal Foundation's website. From our homepage, we have an oil release update page that has a ton of websites that you can go to. They're updated regularly, and that is www.joinacf.org. That's as in joinalabamacoastalfoundation.org. The official response website is deepwaterhorizonresponse.org. You can check that. They have all kinds of maps. They have the projection maps. They have photos from whatever they've been working on that day up on the website, so that's a good information source. And then lastly, as you're making your travels down the coastline, if you do see oil and people aren't out there, I'm going to give you a number that you can call to report that and get the property authorities out there to start cleanup activities. And that number is 1-866-448-5816. So that's about all that's going on right now. I guess we're just kind of sitting around and waiting and hoping that it's not going to be a bad event for the Gulf Coast. If y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. If I don't have the answer, you can leave me your contact info and I'll find out for you and get back to you. But otherwise, I just want to encourage everybody to continue to tell folks that the Gulf Coast is a great place. And if the last week has taught me anything, it is that the Gulf Coast means a lot to a lot of people, not just the people that live here, not just the people that vacation down here. And I've actually been really inspired by the fact that people care, people have a connection down here, and I think that we're in good hands. So I want to thank you all for taking the time today to listen to me ramble on a little bit about oil, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, but otherwise I wish you all a happy day and stay safe. What is our normal mission as opposed to answering the phone for 2,000 volunteers? We do environmental education for children and for adults and community leaders. We have programs like Bay Buddy, which is the K-3 education program that we do in schools that teaches kids basic conservation principles. We do a 5th grade environmental quiz that I believe Gulf Shores participates in every year. It's for 5th graders. We just had that last week, although it feels like it was about 200 years ago. We also do workshops for elected officials to teach them conservation principles and the latest tools in the low impact development toolbox. That's a way that we can grow as communities while reducing our environmental footprint. And then lastly, we work on a lot of coastal policy issues such as stormwater, low impact development, smart growth, those types of things. If you're interested in any of our other programs, I hope that we'll get back to our regular first. Obviously, we thought that the oil was going to come on shore a lot sooner than it ended up doing. Mother Nature kind of gave us a little bit of a reprieve. They are actively booming. I saw the list yesterday for the sectors that they were planning to go out and do today, and the Orange Beach and Gulf Shore sectors were on that list. I think what they're trying to do right now is they're focusing on the most sensitive habitats and the areas that are the most difficult to clean up. And so those are going to be your estuary resources, your oyster beds, your grass beds, those types of things. And then as time permits, they'll move on to, booming the beaches and other areas. They know that the ones that they've put out before, a lot of them have been destroyed, and a lot of them have pivoted and become unanchored, and so they would need to be put out again. And they're cognizant of that, and they're actively out there, either replacing boom or putting it in various areas. So it's just a matter of how much time we have if they're going to get everything boomed that we would like them to see boomed.
I have actually two questions. One is about the chemicals they're using to disperse the oil, and the other one is I heard a report of something about hair. And I mean, is that something that is really can be useful, or is it just a good news story?
Those are both really good questions. The dispersant is a particularly good question. The dispersant is approved, is pre-approved by EPA to use at the surface. It hadn't been pre-approved to use at the wellhead, which is what they're trying right now to disperse it as it comes up from the subsea floor. If you look at the material safety data sheets for the two dispersants that they're using, they do have potentially toxic effects. So it becomes a question of what's the lesser of two evils. I did see, you might have seen in the paper this morning that Senator Shelby sent a letter to NOAA asking them to assess the short and long-term impacts that those dispersants will have on the Gulf Coast. Obviously, we don't want to avoid tragedy with an oil spill, only to find out later on that the amount and the sheer volume of dispersants that we use would have a long-term impact on, our marine and human health. And then your second question, I'm sorry. About the hair. Hair actually has been used effectively in oil spills. From what I understand from scientists and from experts, is that the amount of oil that we're talking about in this scenario is so vast and so different from what we've seen before that it might not necessarily have a big impact here on the Gulf Coast. But again, we get to the point that folks want to know to do something. They want to do something, and so we are getting a lot of reports of people that have started collecting hair. People that understand that peat moss is a really good absorbent. Oatmeal, I've heard, feather pillows. There's all kinds of scenarios that people have come up with to help soak up the oil, and I don't know enough about each of those to gauge their effectiveness, especially when you're talking about this volume of oil and the fact that it's not just, it's not oil that you would have in your car. From what they're saying, I understand when it comes on, it's going to be a very sticky, kind of tar-like substance that might not absorb.
He's got to go barrel that one that's
Anybody else have any questions?
I know.
All right, thank you all so much for y'all's time.